Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Domenico Ciarallo, Dinette Rivera, and Gurev. And I want to ask the question, how do you be professionally angry? Greg, can you kick us off, please?
I'm going to do my best. Actually, when I saw the topic, I was like, wow, that's a good one. As humans, we have different emotions, and I think it's okay to display those emotions at work. However, I would couch that with, to be professionally angry, I think the best way would be to actually just state how you're feeling. Like, hey, I'm feeling angry right now because of these reasons. And to be able to explain what has occurred and then what has transpired, like the end result, and then why that has triggered an anger feeling. I think that's fine to share because it is a human emotion. But remember, we have to remember that the goal is always to find a way of making an improvement in the situation or a change to the situation. And so using anger is really using it as a tool to be able to maybe get what you want, but perhaps a little bit quicker than normal, or really bring it to the top of someone's attention, where you really want them to know that this is something super, super urgent and important. If you're constantly angry about stuff, that effect goes away and people just think you're an angry person and have anger issues. I would say use it sparingly. Talk about the I feel and describe why you feel a certain way. You're not necessarily angry at the person, you're angry at the action that happened or the result. And I think that would be my starting point for this conversation.
I think it's a great start. It opens up a lot of issues. I personally, being a very passionate entrepreneur, would have to say that I've got to my stages of frustration, which is a subject we discussed last week, and it's led to anger. And I do think that there is some positivity that comes out of anger. Again, like you said, Greg, it's the way you proceed and do it. Instead of banging the desk and slamming doors and getting people on pins and needles, I think there's a point where, like you said, you have to be very adamant with somebody or a group of people and say, listen, you know what? I've reached my maximum in terms of frustration. This can't go along any further. And if you don't really show that you've been pushed over the limit, I find a lot of people don't take you seriously. And a lot of times people need to see, oh, this person's really upset. He's really not happy about what's going on in the system. And I think sometimes you have to push people to that limit.
I love the responses that you've given, because it really is, we're human, and there are things that can trigger anger, and it can often even catch us by surprise, right? It can be something that happens suddenly and you did not think that it was to the level that it was going to make you angry. For me, I think I've come to follow more of a process whenever something like that happens to me, because there was a time when I just completely lost it. And it was someone that professionally just really, I had never had anybody get on, under my skin and kind of trigger anger, but in a way that it was really a challenge for me to control it. And that was long ago, but I learned a lot from that. And so for me now, I really, in everything I do and all the emotions that I end up feeling and things that happen, I always go to, because I'm so aware now, I've become very aware of who I am. And when something like that happens, I take that quick couple of seconds or whatever it may be to kind of go, whoa, where did that come from? And why am I feeling like this? That's when I have to really sit back and a lot of deep breathing. I find that is very helpful too, mindfulness.
Well, I love that we talked about, you have to be able to catch it. You have to notice it. You have to notice it building. And I often recommend that people pay attention to their psychosomatic response to anger, because your body is going to tell you when you're getting angry before stuff comes out of your mouth, if you can catch it at that moment.
Yeah, I would agree.
Sometimes people, going to what you were saying, Dinette, you talk about passion, you talk about person, and I've been categorized as an intense person, is because I believe in something so adamantly that I want people to understand my goal. And again, like Greg said, sometimes it's not the person, it's the outcome or the process that's frustrating you. And as you have a conversation with somebody, and you might, bring your tone of voice a little bit higher, but as long as you kind of explain to them, hey, it's not you, it's the whole situation that's resulting from these activities. It's destroying the end result. So again, it's not finger pointing at somebody, but just explaining to somebody, hey, listen, this is something I believe in. This is what I feel is wrong, and we need to fix this.
Dinette, you mentioned a couple of things. One was trying to gain understanding, right? To put it in context, or really ask more questions. And my question to you would be like, have you ever gotten angry and then realized that you had misinterpreted what the intent was, and then realized, oh my God, I'm glad I didn't get too angry,
I find, especially when it's a professional relationship that's also become a friendship, we've sort of gone to that level of, we're now not just colleagues or not just interacting professionally, but there's a bit of a friendship there that's growing. And I think it's when that happens, it's when I can overreact. But I'll tell you something else that it's not something that would help me in the moment, but something that I started doing years ago is that when something makes me angry and I have the opportunity to reflect on it, one of the things that I do is I have someone that I trust deeply, and she's my lifeline. I call her and I say to her, here's what's happening. Here's my interpretation. And most times, probably 99% of the time, she says to me, Dinette, I think you're reading into this more than it is. And I do that whether it's an email, whether it was a phone call, anything that may have happened. But if it's in the moment and we're face to face and I feel like I'm losing it and I ask that question, I have to be humble. I have to admit, I have to share that to you both. Everyone's talking about saying, what you're feeling. And in that moment, I have to be humble and say, look, I have to apologize because I reacted in this particular way and I totally misunderstood what you meant to say. And be open and honest. I think people trust you more when you don't stay with that feeling and just defend your position when you know you were wrong.
Absolutely. One thing that when I'm working with customer service reps, and you can get really frustrated because customer service reps don't really help you as much as you wish they would. Sometimes I'll say, I recognize this is not your fault, but it is your problem and I need you to help me fix it. And I find that really kind of deflates a situation that can be getting out of control.
I love that, Robyn, because I find that it seems like more and more I get frustrated with customer service, and it could be part of this whole COVID situation and a lot of things that are affecting us emotionally, and it changes us. But I have started doing something similar. I actually start the conversation by saying, before we get started, let me let you know right now that I am not in a good place. Mm-hmm. And I know it's not your fault. And so I just kind of give them that ahead. And most of the time it ends up working really well for me because they're very, mm-hmm. They know they're feeling probably like, okay, if I don't help this woman out, she's probably going to flip out on me. So she's warned me ahead of time.
Well, I think in that case, they also know because they monitor the calls or algorithms. So if there's certain words set or tone and voice, that'll actually kick that call for a supervisor to listen in. Oh, so there could be situations where actually the person's being coached by the supervisor while that call's happening. And they also know that that call may be actually listened to by their supervisor afterwards for critique. So they may be on their best behavior when they hear those types of startups.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, definitely go ahead.
We were saying about kind of setting up the groundwork with somebody. I also have to think that, when a person gets called into an office or a group of people get called into a meeting, they know things that are happening within this organization. They're not blind to their mistakes or their shortcomings. And unless a leader or a CEO of a company is extremely volatile and he's Jekyll and Hyde, where he's a happy guy 1 minute and then he explodes on another for no good reason, most people that work for others realize, hey, you know what, I'm slacking off, or I'm not doing my job properly, and I'm expecting this conversation to happen because I've been milking the system for a while. So the responsibility has to always be two-sided. As a leader, no problem, but on the same token, people that work for these people have to at least live up their obligations. And I know that a lot of times when people get reprimanded, they know it's coming.
Well, that is our 10 minutes. So I'm going to cut us off there. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it. I look forward to speaking to each of you again very soon.